Hi guys, welcome back. Now this is probably the final video in the advanced arrow making video series. Now we've already attached our fletchings, and if you want to have a bit more information about attaching fletchings, go back into my arrow making made easy video section and find the video on fletchings. But what we're going to do now is we're going to tidy up the front leading edge of the fletch. Now traditionally you would serve some thread, silk or possibly linen thread around the front to tie down the leading edge, because that edge really can be quite quite sharp, and can give you quite a nasty injury if you're shooting across the back of the hand. So it has to be tied down somehow, and even if you've actually spent quite a lot of time sanding the base of the quill down to get this flush onto the shaft, like I have with these, which are actually quite flush in themselves, they can still lift over time. Now what I do now, rather than serving the arrows, I actually use heat shrink tubing. Now there are quite a few types on the market, but the one I use is actually household electrician's heat shrink, the type that has a heat activated glue on the inside. Don't use automotive because it comes in pre-cut lengths, and generally speaking it's not that big. The electrician's one I use comes in big boxes like so, in widths up to 35, I think 35 or 40 millimeters. It's all 2-to-1 shrink, as in if it's 20 millimeters in diameter, it'll shrink down twice its original. So 20 millimeters will go down to 8 or 9 millimeters quite easily. And I generally use 20 millimeter because I find that it works fine for every application I need it for. Now to apply it, you cut off a length. Now I usually use about an inch, well 3/4 of an inch to an inch in length, and you just slip it over the shaft. And then I position it so it's going to cover the first 2 or 3 millimeters. I'll put my glasses on so I can actually, not much better. It covers the first 2 or 3 millimeters of the quill, the sharp bit basically. Like so. And that, generally speaking, is enough. And once the heat's activated, this actually glues up quite solidly. And then what I use is a soldering iron. Now you can use a naked flame. That's what I used to use all the time. I used to use a little tiny blowtorch. But you are in danger of setting fire to the quill, to the fletching itself. So I tend now to use a soldering iron, which I can heat up quite a lot. If I can find where I put the bloody stuff. The good thing about this stuff as well, it comes in numerous colours, like we're using red today. And you just gently apply heat, and it will start to shrink straight away. And you don't want to let it get too hot in one particular place, because it will burn a little bit if you let it get too hot. See, this is why I used to use naked flames, because it really does shrink really quickly, whereas with the soldering iron it tends to take a little bit longer, but it does the job. Now as you can see, I'm actually using a round sort of needle point on the soldering iron, just checking its position as we go. I found if you use a spade or a chisel point, it tends to dig in a little bit sometimes if it gets too hot. Right, so we're almost there. I think I've gone a little bit too far up, so I'll pull it back a bit. just apply the heat directly onto the shrink wrap, the heat shrink tubing. And there's it. Alright, so as you can see, it shrunk down quite a lot. And you can just, while it's still warm, you can just press it down with your fingers. It never really gets hot enough to burn your fingers unless of course you use a blowtorch. Now I can smell it's actually, I've touched the fletching there, and that's come off. There we are. Just neatening that up. And there we go. So we've applied our heat shrink tubing. The front edges of the fletchings are now nice and neatly covered. They're not going to bite in the back of your hand if you're shooting over the back of your hand. And that's the final job you need to do. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. Stay safe, keep slinging the sticks, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers guys. Don't forget to look at the playlist for arrow making. Take care.